Welcome to Small Town Times. Today's guest is Jamie Lowery, Councillor Jamie Lowery. Welcome.
Happy to be here. I thought it was going to be I've worn the Dave label or name because it seems that you're fond of Dave.
Well, ever since birth.
Could be Dave and Daver.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, no, it's. I appreciate that. That's good. A good sense of humor.
I'm paying attention.
You're paying attention. So your name came up in the last two podcasts I was in. Ted Thompson and Dave Mendocino mentioned it. And Ted's got a whole lot of love for you. Appreciates your experience from down south, and he's a big supporter.
Yep. Well, I've known Ted, again, goes back to North Bay roots. My father-in-law is Nettie. And in fact, when you talk to Ted, I think Nettie was the one that talked him into getting into the financial planning business years and years ago. He was a Fuller brush salesman, and Nettie kind of took him under his wing and kind of talked him into that. So they have that family, the Amarettas and Thompson have had a long history for sure.
Right on. He likes your potential as a leader. So. As you heard, we talked about that.
Yeah. Well, he likes me for that, but I'm not sure he likes me so much for the every time he takes me out, I ask him for stuff.
Yeah.
The last one was the biggest ask ever. So it was for a project we're doing at Cassellholme, and it's probably the most needed. Really the things we're doing over there are probably the most needed infrastructure the city needs right now. Assisted living. There's a community center that we're looking at right now to have a place where seniors can be very, very active. So there's some exciting projects going on there.
Oh, cool. Well, that's what I want to talk to you about there, Cassellholme and Cassellholme. And
that was pickleball.
That's the next show.
Okay.
Yeah. What else are you doing there together?
So there's really three major projects that are in the works at that point. So there's the assisted living. So what that is really is in the north wing, which is left over from Cassellholme once the final demolishing is happening. Cassellholme is actually paying close to $1 million to seal that building in and put an elevator in and repurposing it. Well, what it is for those seniors that can't afford, Marina Point or some of these great places, Empire and Barclay. It'll be a place where if you have a modest income, you'll still have all those amenities. And what Ted's helping with is setting up a charity. It's kind of a bit of an annuity fund where that'll help offset the operating costs. And so people can age with some dignity. They don't want to, it keeps them out of long-term care. It keeps them out of the hospital. And then they can age with a lot of fun because there'll be programming similar to what we have now, actually, in Cassellholme, which is probably one of the most unique places. And personal support as needed, like a la carte, but really for those that are on a modest income. So it's a great opportunity for people to age with some dignity, and not be as afraid of growing old and with limited finances. So that's on the wing. The other components, I'm talking with Ontario Health right now, and this is really, really early stages. We've met last year, is putting an urgent care center for seniors. So what that is, instead of going to the emergency room, you would go there. They'd have things that are typical of aging. There'd be an X-ray machine, OT, lab, because there's certain things that seniors are prone to. So when you go to that place, you're front of the line and can be looked after with your family on the campus at Cassellholme. And the other thing that we've talked to Ontario Health about is having a mobile clinic that would be based out of that. So if you're in Chisholm, West Nipissing, we bring the clinic to you. So, the technology now is so amazing. It saves seniors a lot of work. And then the final one, which is on Cassellholme 4, it's the only building that doesn't have a rec center or a common room. So we want to do something a little bit more active for seniors. We're talking to veterans and the Legion about putting some veterans housing on there, and coupled with some form of active recreation. They may also have like a computer lab and a kitchen and those kind of things. So, lots of things. We've got some seed money from the federal government for that particular project. So we're really excited about it.
those are the type of things, and I know you described them to me before when we talked, that make sense of putting up with the pain of a 5-year build all around it, because that's building up that as a community area. It seemed tight when it was first proposed, and I kind of thought it should be somewhere else because of that. But if all those things come together, it makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I took the opportunity because I did watch the Between Two Daves, and there was some talk about, some disturbances. Well, we have residents tenants actually in Cassellholme 4. We've not heard any concerns, and I phoned the administrator of Cassellholme because I'm obviously not there anymore, and she said no, we haven't heard anything about disturbance or concern about the construction, but she's committed to putting it on the agenda for the board. So if there is things and she was actually going to call Mr. Mendocino to find out, who's concerned. So, that's, a good follow-up. And if there is somebody that's maybe a little bit timid to come forward, she's going to look into it and find out if there's something they can do to address it. But to date, she reports, and our coordinator at Cassellholme reports that we have not had any concerns related to the construction.
Okay. Yeah, no, fair enough. And that's why I appreciate the fact that you're coming in and addressing some of the things that you're saying, because that's how it should be.
It should. Well, I think that there's one thing that people know me for is, the unvarnished truth. I really don't have a lot of filters. Sometimes it gets me into some trouble, by the way.
Join the club.
Well, I know, but even at home. So yeah, it is. It's something that I can be myself, and if I believe in these things, and then I see them through. So, it's not always a popular position to be in, but I can look myself in the mirror.
Now, Mr. Mendocino, Dave, also brought up concerns about the change in the governance structure as far as who's on the board. Is there anything more? I know we discussed this a little bit in our interview before the election, but if you could jog our memory on why it was necessary, specifically the legislation that required it, and why it was done so fast, and what concerns are there. We do know that Dave even addressed it. I said, well, one of the concerns would be is if the city or some of the municipalities wanted to, they could sell it as an asset and go private. So if you don't mind.
That, quite honestly, is preposterous. That if quickly means 1986, because I'm a little surprised by the whole thing, because Cassellholme has never, ever been under any kind of municipal control. The governance, by the fact that they shared a board for quite some time, is the only thing. But the ownership clearly is a not-for-profit organization, which was established in 1986. So not a penny of municipal money went into any of that infrastructure, not a cent. And we've talked about this many times. If there was a challenge or something that people wanted to know, similar to Cassellholme, I'm more than happy to share all the documentation. In fact, because of these kind of conversations, I dug up the original land transfer was for $1, and the reality is that Cassellholme cannot run another organization. It's under the Long-Term Care Act. It's precluded from being in charge of another long-term care home, another entity. So that's why this not-for-profit was created. Now, the change in governance was for exactly what I talked about earlier. We have some ambitions, or Cassellholme, the board at the time, has some ambitions with me departing to do other things for seniors and really become the seniors representative and really try and do as much as we can for seniors. And having a board that is structured that way made a lot of sense. So when municipal leaders were quitting and moving on, or whatever they decide, we actually started to put tenant. We have a tenant that's on the board now. We have someone from who's actually First Nations. We have someone from the Legion who's on the board, and we're just about to get a private sector person to join the board as well. So to bring their experience from down south about these, sort of enterprise kind of things. So it's becoming more, instead of a council type of board, it's a skill-based board. So there'll be people on that board that bring certain, expertise, whether it be legal or medical or business, those kinds of things, to bring it to the next level. And that's really what that was all about.
So none of the Cassellholme money went to Cassellholme?
Not a cent.
Okay. And the legislation that required it not to have a mirror board, what specifically, because a bunch of people have been looking for it and couldn't find it, so if it'd be helpful.
Well, I mean, we've put in writing to all members of the Cassellholme board at the time. We've sent a letter some time ago to the city of North Bay, outlining what those changes are. And what it is that Ontario not-for-profit organization is really restricted. It was in October 2021. They said you've got 3 years, but you cannot share. You can have 3 similar board members, and that's it. And you have 3 years to make that happen. So if you look under ANCA, that's where you'll find that legislation.
Okay, I was looking under that actually, and just haven't found this explicit wording. Maybe I
can tell you.
A copy of the,
how about if I get my good friend John D'Agostino to provide you with that?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to put it to bed because I don't like talking about things to death.
Sometimes there's better things to talk about than that.
Well, sometimes I like to beat a dead horse. It just feels good sometimes. Okay, so you've addressed the questions and appreciate that.
Yep.
You feel that, and your position is that it's better off not having political representatives on it, and it never was a public entity per se anyways. It
was purely by convenience. Mr. Mendocino would know that they had 2 sets of books, they had 2 sets of audits, they had 2 sets of elections. Why? And so, because it was required, because they're 2 separate entities. So, I mean, and the thought of actually selling a not-for-profit to a for-profit is, again, preposterous. Like, it doesn't work that way. And, if you look at, someone who would be interested, let's say someone who would be interested in that, all the units in there are RGI, which is rent to geared income, or they are somehow subsidized by the DSAP. So DSAP has a big role to play in that, if anybody, in Cassellholme. So if you're looking to drive profit, you got to remember, you still have to change the windows, you've got to put new roofs on, you got to fix the elevator, and there's not a large cash flow. So I would suggest that the actual equity in those buildings is not nearly. I would say we sort of scanned a bit, is probably between $500 and $1 million worth of equity in those buildings, and that's probably and the reason why there's only that much equity is because that's what we have in the bank as a reserve. That's it.
Interesting. That's a good grist for the mill on that topic.
Well, it's tiresome because we've done so much work in trying to educate people and talk to people, but organizations will change from time to time their governance structure, and really having a skill-based board in something like that has been great. And I can tell you, if you talk to anybody who lives in that building or any of those buildings, it's been refreshing. They now have a voice at the table that they've never had before. It has completely changed the atmosphere there by showing that organization is truly, truly, truly interested in seniors activities, seniors accommodation, and making that lifestyle something that you could be proud of if you live in North Bay.
Well, Dave's just going to have to get used to the fact, I guess, on the strength of your assertions in reply to the concerns he's raised, that when he was chair of the Cassellholme board, he ended up making the right decision and hiring you.
He did. He signed my the irony of this whole thing is actually crazy. So yeah, they went out I think what I understand is they went out a second time. And then I had a lot of development background from down south. I did I think one time in one of my report cards, the council was close to $500 million in projects under my belt. And I tracked it all. I did a report card every year about how we were doing. Not always good, but that was sort of the allure and what brought me to North Bay. And then, coincidentally, because of my wife having such ties to her, like she was in shock when I said, "Oh, we're going to go back to North Bay," and what? Because she worked in a teaching hospital, Mount Sinai Hospital, for 30 years. It's a state-of-the-art hospital, operating room, and so. It was a big adjustment for her, but as it turned out, it was the best move we could have made because I love the city. She got to spend some time with her mother before she passed. I've got lots of friends and family here, so it was probably the best move we could have ever made. But the fact that Dave signed the employment agreement is funny.
I thought you came up with the battalion. It was part of the deal.
Well, I had known Stan Butler for like 20 years. Because I used to coach in Pickering, and he used to run these amazing coaching clinics for junior coaches. Yeah. And then, of course, I knew him in Brampton, and followed him up here. I guess I followed Stan.
That's interesting. I remember Stan telling me that you were a bright light and somebody should take notice of you coming up here for Cassellholme. I haven't looked at the specifics, and this kind of raises one of the other bugaboos people bring up when they talk about you is they go, "Did you?" And I think we touched on this before, and this will be the last time. When you were in Brampton, your departure was because of what? And
well, my departure was for personal reasons, and it's not unusual. People leave because leadership changes. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, I didn't see myself being part of that leadership regime.
Yeah,
I really didn't.
It wasn't a smooth thing for the first the year or two before you left either, because you were in charge and involved with a whole bunch of different things that became public, the news stories.
Well, I mean, I think there's a whole narrative there, because there was if you followed it, and that was like 10 years ago. There's a lot of talk about the mayor, Susan Fennell, and some tactics and some projects which the Southwest Quadrant, sued by a developer. She is, that's gone to Superior Court, and I was a very close ally of Susan Fennell,
right?
And because I thought she was a brilliant woman, she's a great leader, and all those charges were actually cleared. That there was nothing. In fact, the proponent had to reimburse the city for a portion of their legal costs, and then she got a recreation center named after her.
Oh, interesting.
So at tables,
So there's news stories that would get passed around that kind of show that you're in some conflicted areas there for whatever you're doing. I haven't read them recently, but there was never any follow up to clear it up, I guess.
I don't know what conflicted stories. I mean, I had a huge department.
Yeah.
So, and there are always there's always something going on. So there was the fire department, arts and culture, recreation, parks, the dog catcher. I mean, I was in a big thing with the DOLA legislation with pit bulls. Sherry DeNovo was out there picketing in front of one of our facilities there. So when you're in a city like that, you're going to get all kinds of, you're going to get dragged in, and you're face a lot of things. But it did me, those scars actually really helped me, because pushing through on something like Cassellholme, I mean, it showed, those battle scars helped me.
Yeah. Well, experience and an ability to get through conflict of any kind, adds up. That's cool. What do you think about, how do you feel at council? How's it going?
Well, it's very strange for me to be on the other side, whether it be in Brampton or Markham or Pickering, but and Cassellholme, because you're there making decisions. You work with the board, and so you can make things happen. What I'm finding is it's a slower process. Chris Main, who has been my chair for, and still is at Cassellholme, said, I can see, Jamie, how you can get frustrated, because we'd have board meetings, And 2 weeks later, all of a sudden things were happening already, and things were like, you could already see things beginning to change and to happen. And so when you're at the council table, your job, you really only have one employee, which is the CAO, and getting consensus among 10 other people in a process where you want to be able to ask questions and drive results. It is frustrating. So yeah, there's my answer.
You're frustrated.
Yeah, I am, because I really had hoped that the council, being part of council, we'd be bolder, tackle some of those things, make some sense of the great lifestyle we have here and potential lifestyle in North Bay. The mental health and addiction, there are moves being made. There's no question. I mean, there are people plugging away, trying to get things done. The health and wellness safety thing plan, working with various agencies. Those things are all. But you know what? You just want to see things happen. Looking at things like capital projects, like, do we, looking at any legacy projects, do we really need to do these things? Can we re-engineer these and put our thumbprint or fingerprint on these projects that will make North Bay that much more prosperous? One of the things that I prided myself on in all contexts is, if you've got to do projects, can you make them more than they are? I'm not saying more money. I'm not saying more as in, more amenities. Can it do more for a community? And I think back on, the proposal I worked on for the rink at the North Bay Mall. Like, it's just a rink, but imagine, putting those uses together and the economic prosperity that would have brought to that part of town. Like, I've had business owners, that had contacted me and wrote letters, and and now you look at the landscape of due to the pandemic, mostly of retail. How great would that have been? You've got entertainment with the theater on one end. You could add a rink, and I had restaurant people calling me, I want to be first in. And so you're spending the same amount of money, roughly the same amount, probably less, because a lot of the infrastructure is over there. But what would it have done?
The impact and the value added to such a project. I thought you had some good ideas back then. Yeah.
And so that's, to me, that's a bold statement. That's something bold. That's something out there that would serve as a ice surface, and great for tourism, and great for the mall, and great for that local community, because you can walk there. Like, it was not just about two pads. There was, we talked about a youth employment center. We talked about working with, a child care and a seniors drop-in. But you can walk to that place.
Yeah.
And you can, see, people can go watch a game, watch a practice.
I don't think people understand how many people live within a square kilometer of that part of West Ferris. I have an office there, and it's there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of high rises where there's lots of seniors would have appreciated that very much. And I really push back on when people tell me that Omashill's like just 10 minutes away. Yeah, if you got a car and you want to go there, and that's, it's different for others, though. It's different for others. And
well, Omashell, I mean, what I'm concerned about, there's a lot of the concerns I have about Omashell, but it's about, the heart of Ferris. So if you're coming up from down south, you're getting off of Lakeshore. If you are in Birchhaven or in Lake, you're going to get on the highway and you're going to bypass all of Ferris. You're going to get off Lakeshore. So you've bypassed a beautiful part of the city. And, everyone knows that traffic brings prosperity. The more eyes, the more experiences you have down there, it's its own economic and tourism calling card. So it's about clustering those types of amenities together, and it's a model that we actually had a tourism company look at it, and they said the numbers didn't lie there. And that's why, again, during the election, I put forward the site behind the current West Ferris.
Mm-hmm.
2 NHL size rinks. And then because it was pre-engineered, you can do a second floor, and it's really like $50 a square foot as opposed to $200 or $300. And again, the part about that was about, having some, other things that would bring people to that hub, senior programming splash pad, and create a really vibrant space right in the neighborhood. So
I like the thought of that proposal that you had for the behind West Ferris and Arena, and it's a shame that it wasn't given actually more thought when they were picking the Michelle and whatnot. I don't know whether when the tenders come in for this and we actually go forward with that project at Michelle or not. It'd be interesting to see. I'm hearing a lot more opposition to it still, right? It hasn't toned down. People against it are against it, and they haven't changed their mind. Yeah.
Again, it's I looked at it because I designed arenas. I've played hockey. I still coach hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at a functional review of that, it poses some challenges from a use standpoint and from a revenue standpoint. And in these times when municipalities are screaming, the City of Toronto looking for the Toronto tax, the Toronto Act to find, we need to make sure that every time we invest in something, we've done a solid job of looking at the business plan. So if nothing else, it should pay for itself.
Yeah.
A number of councillors went down south, looked at, private arenas. Not that they're looking at let's privatize something. What they're looking at is, that sector has got the formula down. So they told them about things about how to make their spaces. And the only way you can make money is make sure that operationally it's as concise and as automated and as friendly that way as it can be. And so, these are the things. So you've got, it's taxpayers' money. You've got to make sure you are wisely investing in these things and that you've planned it, it's purpose-built, and you have a model that will make some return and pay dividends, not only for the users, but for the community and at the end of the day, the taxpayers.
Now, you mentioned that about it's an unknown necessarily, or is it, about the operating costs for this proposed construction of the Y design?
Yeah, I'd asked the question at council, so it's no secret. What is the operating, what is the revenue? And the response I got back was, we're going to wait 2 to 3 years to figure that out. Well, if you are building a restaurant and you go to the bank and I want to build a restaurant, can you loan me $1 million? They said, well, the first question is, what's your business model and revenue stream? It's not going to be, we're going to wait 2 or 3 years.
No, it's kind of back-ass word, really.
Yeah, and even for that review, I contacted other municipalities, got their numbers. I still, even in Brampton, I still have, some very good people that will, help me with information, and nothing, nefarious, but just give me some of the revenues and some of those things. And you can, looking at the model, you can make a case for doing it in a different manner. You optimize your revenue, and it can, conceivably pay for itself operationally. Recovering that, the capital money, I mean, that's why, a private rink is down south could be $400 an hour, right? So, it's not the market, so.
So you're frustrated at council, and they're making bad decisions and going forward no matter what questions are asked. And is there anything that you can make a difference on?
Well, every day I try to make a difference. I mean, I'm really loving the DIA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving being part of Nipissing University, and Health Unit with their budget. That when it was presented, and I'm now co-chair of the Finance and Property Committee, but they really looked hard and deep into their budget, and they tinkered with it, and they looked at better ways to serve and deliver and fulfill their mandate, which I think was quite admirable. I was quite impressed with that process, because there were some tough decisions that were made about that, but they looked at what the bang for their buck would be in getting, delivering services. And it took, in some areas, they took more of a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach with, on the ground resources. So, when you look at those kind of things, and they don't always work out, But if you don't try, if you don't put your, have a business case, it's awfully difficult to, to sit at night and think, have I made those right decisions? So you've got to try.
Well, if you're not feeling like you're making a quick enough impact at the council chamber, putting your energies into the committee work and the board work is sounds like the only option you have, really.
Well, I mean, don't take me the wrong way that I'm, I don't, I say what I think at these meetings, and it's a council. That's the way it works. It's democracy. But it is for me. There's lots of other rewards. Clean, green, beautiful. Trying to keep up with Harry Madigan, for example, is a bit of a task. But I love that too. We're going to be able to showcase our city, with Communities in Bloom, and we've got all kinds of partners. I mean, it was amazing. Canada came on, and people are donating and want to be part of it. Hydro and streets are going to be beautified, and that's pride. Like, that's people who really care about their community, and it's not a lot of money, but it's showing how they feel about where they live, and that to me is a you can't match that anywhere.
Where do you live in North Bay?
I live on North Shore.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
West Ferris businesses are getting together and kind of creating a little bit of an association of some sorts to help promote things down there and move things along. Clean, green, and beautiful, and the upcoming contest. What's it called?
Communities in Bloom.
Yeah, Communities in Bloom. So the activity there, I think there's a lot of people down there willing to embrace that and try to be a little bit known as a thriving business sector. There's a lot more going on there than people realize. So that's pretty good. But I'm more interested in your U18 girls hockey.
Oh yeah,
because I used to shoot the ice bolts and whatnot, and I know they have a great organization.
Yep.
So how did you guys do this year? And now you're in tryouts?
Yeah, it just as one door closes, the other one opens up with hockey, it seems. Well, I had a U18 B team, and we started off. We had a lot of success during the season. There was a little bit of a lull, and then we got to the tail end of our season, and we finished third. But there was another team, Georgina, had put in a protest. So we dropped down to fourth, which meant we would play the first place team in the first round. Well, we knocked the first place team out, which was great. Then we played the second place team because 2 and 3 played, knocked them out. Then we had to go into the next one, which is you're playing all of the league champions or the division champions. So 2 more first place teams. We beat them. And so we end up in the championship round against Lucan, Ontario, which is a great place, the Donnellys. And they were, I think, ranked number one in Ontario. And we led, we're 2-0 for us. And, probably 3/4 through the second period, they scored 2 quick goals. And our girls kind of, it was taken aback a bit. And then we battled in the last 2 minutes, so we lost 3-2. But it was a fantastic ride. Took a bus down there, literally a ride, and we played every single game we could have played throughout the season, the playoffs, and so you couldn't ask for a better season. And I was so proud of those girls. Like, they worked so hard.
Who are some of those players we're going to hear about coming up?
Well, I think you're going to hear about a lot of those. I mean, you got they weren't on my team, but you got the Oulettes. They're for us. You got Beaupre. A couple. Montgomery. Like, there are some really, some stellar players, and there's another opportunity for North Bay to become a mecca for women's hockey. It's faster. It's growing faster than anywhere in that sector. So we've got some people here that know what they're doing, and could grow that sport and make North Bay that place where girls come and families come to excel at a sport at a great sport like hockey.
Well, I know the Ice Bolts organization has done a lot of work that way, and the Lakers have brought it up a level, and they've got international attention with a couple of their players, Maria Domenico, who came up through Ice Bolts, and Darren Turcotte coaching. He's done a great job up there. So yes, North Bay could be it is on the map for women's hockey, but it's probably not taken advantage of as far as promoting it and getting it out there. Do you know of anybody that's moved here specifically because of North Bay hockey, girls hockey, women's hockey?
Specifically, not offhand. I do know that a professor at Nipissing University, Greg Rickwood, sees that as well, and he's got connections into D1 into the United States, and he absolutely sees it that way, and can say that there are people coming, and I don't know the names, but there are people that are coming to be part of that culture.
Right on. That's cool. What other things that you feel are important for a discussion with Dave?
Well, I do the 2 day between 2 Daves. I don't have any reservation about that. But I do think that focusing our efforts on downtown, and that was one of my things during the election, is for North Bay to believe in a direction. And with nothing showed more the importance of a downtown at those storefronts as the pandemic, and that to me is one of the great places in North Bay, and could be even greater. We inspire some new residential units down there. The business, there's certainly a lot of investment down there. There's the building block folks that are really making personal investments in properties, even to our own Councillor Gardner. He's got a restaurant that should be opening up fairly soon, so he believes in the downtown. I think that is something that I am really enjoying, and I think people should be proud of. I mean, it's easy to shake it off and say, it's got people down there, but you know what? It has such potential, and there's such great businesses down there. That I think we should, learn to celebrate that and activate and program the downtown. Bring people down there. We're investing in, the basketball, the museum, there's an all-wheel parking down there. So it can be something that's quite unique, and is unique, and we can celebrate it and really make it something, and then celebrate the neighborhood. So that's something I'm really, and then again, the whole sports component.
Well, I certainly believe in that effort, what's going on downtown, and there's people are starting to get the right idea about what the challenges are and how to solve them. I was talking to Rod Biltz. He was on.
Great guy.
And actually, I have Tony Limina booked for next week, right?
Great guy.
Yeah. like very solid, sound people that aren't
business people,
political necessarily. They're not doing the pom-poms, but they just believe and they're investing in it. So,
well, Tony, interesting. I spoke with him, I don't know, last week or whatever, and he's not a political guy. He's head down. Just want to get this done. He believes, and he's putting his mind and his resources into making a difference. And Rod Bells, I don't know of anybody else in North Bay that does as much research, and like not just reading books, but actually getting out there and seeing firsthand and pushing for those right things. So some strong leadership here in North Bay. Yeah,
if you can get it all heading in the right direction, that's going to work out well. I don't have any more questions for you for this particular session.
Well, there's no salary questions this time.
Well, I was going to ask you if you're going to be on the
sunshine list
next year.
Possibly, yeah.
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 So tell me about the structure of your payment from when you were with Cassellholme and the move to Castle Arms and your position at Castle Arms.
So Castle Arms, I am the executive director, and it's a position where. Again, the compensation isn't exactly. If you look, I think we talked about this last time.
Yeah, I think you said 30 grand or something.
35. So
35.
I think our cleaning staff make more than that, but I do it because I really, and as I said to the seniors who live there, it's I'm only doing things that I want to do, and so being involved in projects and being involved in hockey and being involved in council, there's just things I want to do. And so, the money part of it is not that I'm independently wealthy, but I really want to enjoy. I've seen, too many tragic stories where people aren't doing that, and they get to the end and they, they've missed opportunities. Putting things off, and I'm going to plan to do this. I mean, working at Cassellholme, a lot of tragic stories there where people have worked their whole lives and they've got a bucket list and they've saved and saved and saved. They get to that time, that magical retirement age, and health problems. And now they can't do it. So they've got the means, now they don't have the health. So, that experience is not one-off. There's a lot of stories out there where people, are chasing the dollars or chasing things, and, I'm gonna. Well, I'm doing it. So that's exactly what I'm doing.
So how much are you going to be on the sunshine list for next year?
I don't know. It's because it's not the whole time. With executives, whether you're the city or whether you're with Rogers, whatever. I mean, a good CAO or CEO always plans for the exit. Your expiry date is not going to be 30 years as a CEO or a CAO. I don't know of any. So when you negotiate, you say, well, upon exit, this is what we're going to do. So I would think it's probably just slightly over 100,000.
Oh, okay. Next year.
Yep.
Okay. The details other than that.
No, I mean it's not. It was part of the original 2000. Well, the negotiations started in 2014 and were completed in 2015 before I started on January 5th of 2015. Okay. That's how old that agreement is.
Okay. Good enough, I guess. Thank you very much for answering those questions. I know they're very personal, and you don't have to.
You know what? There was nothing there's nothing done that was that isn't out of step with that kind of employment. It's just, I mean, you look at again, any executive, that's they have an employment contract, and it spells out all those kinds of things.
I think what adds to the speculation and whatnot is just how it played out. There was a lot going on. There was members of the board that were resigning and dropping off and coming. There was all that angst over the financing.
Right.
The not having necessarily, there's a lot going on. I don't need to repeat
no, you don't have to remind me. There's a lot going on.
And so it looks like it all happened really quick and with not enough people at the table that that's what it looked like when you look through the minutes. But the background of knowing that the agreement was negotiated and how you're going to leave beforehand.
Every executive does that.
Yeah.
Every single one.
So maybe Dave Mendocino's signature is somewhere on that agreement?
It is?
Yeah.
It is. You should ask him about it.
I should. Well, I'm sure he has confidentiality concerns because he was.
No, I don't mind saying.
He can't talk about your business.
Well, I mean, he could in some ways because someone has, and you're not allowed to know through MPIFA, has FOI'd that particular agreement. And so they, as a third party, because I'm no longer with it, that organization is required to contact me and say, hey, do you have a problem with this? Letting people look at your employment agreement. Well, if you think about it, well, really the only thing that's, taboo in some ways is how much you get paid. Well, if you look at every sunshine list, you're going to find that anyway. So I said, I have the email. I said, I don't care. You can share it with whoever you like. Just redact my personal information, like where I live. I don't want, people stalking me or anything. But, that was, I had an opportunity. I could have said, no, this, but I've done nothing wrong. Like it's a business convention that's everywhere. So I'm not ashamed of that. And if people, understood what I went through, what my staff went through. It was very difficult because including the city of North Bay looking to take on Cassellholme, and when when you have a certain structure and another organization is going to, it's like a takeover, people, it really does tend to, not really so much undermine, but it really affects the organization, because you got to keep, because the people start thinking, should I be looking for another job? I never thought I was going to be a municipal employee. Well, what's that going to look like? So, it destabilizes an organization with that kind of overture. So there was no thought given to the impact on the people that deliver service day in and day out to those residents. Then you've got some wild statements being made by mayors and writing letters. I mean, it was in the paper. They all got together. They created their own council, put resolutions together, sent them off to the province, and lo and behold, the province said, Jamie has done absolutely everything correctly, crossed every T, dotted every I. We're going ahead with it. So now the province isn't exactly known, I don't think, like big organizations, as risk takers. For them to put out a letter saying go ahead is a lot. I took the extra step, and the board took the extra step to actually get a report done by a lawyer to look at our procurement process. I saw Dave, at one point said that, we only had one bidder. Well, it was called a competitive bid, competitive dialogue. So what happens is, in that atmosphere, you can actually talk to various vendors at the same time. You have a fairness advisor, so you get them to give them ideas on how they can bring the price down. What's their expertise? What are they seeing in the in your proposal? So you can talk to them. Now, that's unnerving for some folks, because the other side of that is it's a stip sum project, which means when they gave us a price, that's it. There's no escalation. There's no, this costs us more. That's too bad. This, unless it's an error of some sort. I noticed on one of the podcasts talked about, the contingency. Well, what they spend contingency on, does anyone know? I do. And I can tell you, the very first contingency item was an insurance policy required by Infrastructure Ontario to the tune of $340,000 unplanned. It's called closing insurance. So if the contractor walks or there's some problem, you've got the bond, but that guarantees that project is going to be finished. Then the next thing is, which worries me on a couple of fronts, was over $100,000 for foundation work. Well, we have 30 years of geotechnical information on that site, because all the Cassellholmes, Cassellholme, the number of additions and things going. Well, they found a foundation, and it was like 3 feet wide. It was huge. So there's another one. And then the next big one, and we had some credits as well. Next one is in putting the piers in, the piles. Well, the sewer line was not where they thought it was, so they have to move a sewer line. That was an expensive project. So all the expenses in any project are getting out of the ground, because what happens in the background from that is they do shop drawings. So they review every detail, every thing that goes together. Does this piece meets this piece? Does that piece? So all those things have all been vetted. So once you're out of the ground, there are no surprises, because it's right there. You've got the benefit of the shop drawings, and you're out. So when you think about Michelle, that's a worry, because we had 30 years of geotech, and we went over for Cassellholme. We did more boreholes than ever required, just to make sure, and we still found stuff.
Wow. Well, how much of the contingency fund has been expended so far?
When I left, it was probably about $900,000. But again, you look at those big hits with $340,000 right off the hop for insurance. I mean, it does take a bite out of it, right? So, but now it's you're out of the ground. The shop drawings are done.
Oh, okay.
The chances are of any kind of thing going wrong is minimal.
Excellent explanation for that, because it did raise a little questions in my mind. But I really appreciate you coming on and providing the background information, so people have a little bit more to consider when these concerns are raised.
Well, as I said, I mean, I've got nothing that I've ever done. You can I don't know how many people would share employment agreements and how much they make for a living. And, I just, I've done everything in good faith. So.
Well, that's important. And I'm sure in the long term, you'll win over people by the
I didn't know I had to, Dave.
Well, you're a politician. Of course you have to.
No, you're representing people, and people don't all agree.
Mm-hmm.
So you could win over some, and quite honestly, piss off some other people. So
my point is that over time, people prove themselves and win over others because the white noise and the chatter and the concerns are all proven not to be true. So in the long term, that's what it takes to win more people over.
Well, I ran on some of the things that I was going to do, and I'm doing them the best I can.
Oh, that's cool. We'll keep an eye. Make sure you keep doing that.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I will wear a fedora next time. Yeah.
Well, you keep copying things. So I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to come up with my own name tag. Maybe we'll say Slick or something like that.
Slick. I thought that was your nickname. What was it, Slick? I don't know. It was from the paper days or something. I something about that or
Scoop. I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Scoop. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Scoop. That's right.
Which is
Nugget days, or because Carla, I guess you guys went to school together. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, people just call me that damn Dave Dale now. So.
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Anyways, thank you again.
Right,
I really appreciate it. I hope we can do it again sometime.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I mean, I love. If there's something you want to ask or council related or whatever, I'm fine.
Cool.
I'm happy to come in and explain. But again, a lot of these things are very complicated. But hopefully, I can provide an explanation that people can understand. It's in because it is not that they couldn't understand in complex things, but put it in chunks.
Yeah. Well. People need to be able to digest stuff, and it has to be put to them in a way that they can, see the forest from the trees on these issues. Again, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.